I was talking to Ellison and David Ellison afterward with a couple other reporters, and he said, this is what he said. He said, half of my family is basically Republican, half of my family is Democrat. And he said his vision for CBS News was talking to the broad base of the country, where how do we get people to trust us from the center left and the center right? And I actually told him I didn't think it was possible to get, to talk to the majority of the country anymore because everything's so fragmented and so polarized. And frankly, Republicans are often living in a world where they don't want to hear facts that contradict the worldview that they have. But that was his vision. That's what he said he wanted CBS News to do. And we'll see if he can do it. Good luck to him. I think a lot of people have tried, and I don't know of any news organization that's broadly trusted by Republicans. I even told him, I said the Wall Street Journal, I think, would be a center-right organization, right? And Donald Trump's suing Rupert Murdoch over their coverage, and they're now enemy number one, perhaps, in MAGA media. So, and he didn't really have any, he said it was day one and they're going to try. But that'll be interesting. And also during the press conference, another reporter asked him, I forget who, but they pointed out that they had told the FCC that they were going to basically root out bias, and they asked him if he could point out instances where he thinks that CBS News has been biased, and he declined to point out specific instances, but did say that he thinks they can do better, which is of course easy to do, I guess. Not name anything in particular, but say that you can do better. And I think it is still very clear that they do. They're basically using coded language to say that they want to appeal more to conservatives, and how they do that, I think, remains to be seen. Maybe it's Bari Weiss coming in. He was asked about Bari Weiss as well during the press conference, and said he would not comment on rumors and speculation regarding whether he's going to buy Bari Weiss's publication, The Free Press. And
well, I was going to ask you about that, actually. I'm glad you brought that up. So in the last few days, we've seen Ellison and Skydance name the full slate of executives that are coming in that are going to run Paramount. A lot of big names, including Jeff Shell, who was there in the room today. But sort of oddly missing from all of this is the new head of CBS News. It's currently run by Tom Chabrowski. I hope I'm saying his name correctly there. And Tom, it seems, is going to continue running CBS News for the foreseeable future. But there have been questions, including a report in Puck that David Rhodes, the former CBS News chief, and what was his role at Fox News? He was a senior executive there?
Something to that effect.
I think so. Yeah. So there was this report that he was in talks. Oliver, did you talk to him, or did you talk to people in his world this week? We had a story in Status that it looks like Ellison and Rhodes may not actually be pairing up for CBS News down the road.
Yeah, I think it remains to be seen. I can confirm that there were conversations between Rhodes and Skydance. And I think that remains to be seen. I did talk to George Cheeks, who is now overseeing the linear television assets over at the new Paramount. So that includes CBS News. And I asked him, I said, is Tom Chabrowski, the current president of CBS News, is he your guy? Or are you guys looking to bring in someone else? And George Cheeks didn't give a definitive answer on Tom Chabrowski, but he did say he loves Tom Chabrowski. And he did give a pretty heavy endorsement for Tom Chabrowski. So it would be surprising, I think, if they deviated from that decision to at least have him in there for the foreseeable future. I did some reporting as well, and certainly there's going to be no imminent announcement about David Rhodes coming in at CBS News to take the reins. So at least, like you said, for the foreseeable future, Tom Chabrowski, who is widely liked and a pretty well-respected industry veteran. He was over at ABC News for a while, came in at CBS News earlier this year, and has talent likes him. So he's going to be in that seat for a little bit. And maybe he's going to maybe he's going to keep that seat. It seemed like George likes him a lot. He said he loves him. That was his words. Now, it still was a different answer, though. I asked George Cheeks, is there going to be any changes at CBS Sports leadership? Because he oversees that as well. And he said, no, the team in there is first class and great. And that's going to stay the same. He wouldn't give the same definitive answer in terms of CBS News. And I think a lot remains to be seen. Is Bari Weiss coming in? Like, what's going to happen there? but he did throw his endorsement or his weight, behind Tom, which I found to be notable.
Right. It is interesting that the David Rhodes situation maybe isn't working out. And we also have not heard anything about the Bari Weiss potential acquisition of the Free Press. We had reported previously that she could be in the contention in a senior role at CBS News. I think that sort of set off some shockwaves and dropped some jaws across the newsroom there. Maybe sparked some worries about the future direction. I almost wonder if that was more signaling to the public, to the administration, that we're planning to come in and that we're taking this idea seriously of representing conservatives in our newsroom in a meaningful way. But there was discussion today at the press conference about this ombudsman that CBS also agreed to, I understand. And that was an agreement to get this deal across the finish line with the FCC, with Brendan Carr, who had really railed about the network's fairness, their accuracy, and their political coverage. Did they get, was Ellison or anyone asked about this ombudsman and who they're going to report to and how that's going to work?
Yeah, I mean, they talked about the ombudsman and they're going to monitor for bias and be professional. I mean, they played up the ombudsman as much as, as a professional person who's going to, if they see bias, I guess, call it out. I think what was interesting is I asked them a couple questions, but the one question I asked and I really pressed on was I asked everyone on stage, and it was not only David Ellison, but it was Jeff Shell, who's the president of Paramount, former NBC Universal executive. And I asked, and it was Jerry Carnell, who's the Redbird executive who's investing in Paramount, and Andy Gordon, another Redbird executive, is coming in as chief strategy officer at the new Paramount, and obviously David Ellison. I asked them all if they would commit not to meddling in 60 Minutes. Are they going to allow 60 Minutes, which has historically operated with autonomy, to continue operating independently, and are they not going to meddle? And frankly, I did not get a straight answer out of them. Initially, again, it was, in fairness to them, I asked a two-pronged question. I asked about 60 Minutes, and then I asked about the attacks on the media. David Ellison sort of addressed the attacks on the media by saying he always supports talent, but didn't address the 60 Minutes situation. And so then I followed up and I said, on 60 Minutes, just to be clear, no one's going to meddle with 60 Minutes. It's Tanya Simon, the new executive producer. She's going to be allowed to operate this show as she sees fit. No one's going to ask for a list of stories ahead of time. And frankly, I did not get a direct answer on that one. David Ellison said that his first meeting today was at CBS News, that's where he first started the day. And he did. He went in there, he addressed the CBS News staff. But I did not hear from anyone on stage, no, we will not meddle with 60 Minutes. Now, I did hear a broad answer from Jerry Carnell, who said that you don't buy news to influence the news, which was a very broad answer to a very specific question. But I think that's interesting. Are they going to require stories be sent up the chain? Is that something that's they're going to ask Tanya Simon? And, there was talk, and we reported this as well, that George Cheeks, the person overseeing CBS, floated to then president of CBS News or head of CBS News, Wendy McMahon. Maybe you don't air the 60 Minutes season finale this time, and we do something else there. And so, there was meddling. We know that former executive producer Bill Owens literally resigned, citing meddling and interference from the corporation. And so this was a time, I think, where they could have said, of course, we're not going to touch 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes is an iconic news magazine. We do not want to taint it at all. We have full confidence in Tanya Simon and the team there. They're professionals, and we're going to allow them to do their job as they see fit. They did not say that. They basically said it's day one. I think actually David Ellison might have said that, but they did not provide a direct answer, John.
Wow. And that feels like such an easy layup. Of course, we're going to defend this organization. And of course, we would, not meddle in its political affairs. And it's surprising that they wouldn't just say these words and, assuage concerns both internally and externally. That show obviously has been through the ringer with the former executive producer stepping down. and Donald Trump heavily weighing on that show, screaming and raging about it on Truth Social because of its coverage of him. Questions over whether or not it had, almost held up this deal because of its coverage. And Sherry Redstone, the, now former controlling shareholder of Paramount, asking for information about it ahead of time. It's kind of incredible that they didn't just say that show is going to have the most autonomy. We are going to return this network to its pristine Tiffany network era, and didn't want to do it.
Well, they did. I mean, he did say that he respects the legacy of the Tiffany Network's news division, and he said those things. But at one point, I think we were going back and forth, and I'm getting credit for them for just taking questions. I mean, this is something that's very rare. It's not like any news organization. I've never been to a press conference really like this. So credit to them for taking the questions. And we went back and forth, had a nice volley there. And I think he said at one point that it's day one of the new Paramount, and they were, basically going to see how things shake out. And I said, well, you must have thought about this, given that 60 Minutes has sort of been at the center of getting this deal across the finish line with Donald Trump's lawsuit, the settlement, all of that. And, there was no direct answer. And I think that, again, while we credit them for taking the questions, a lot of the questions did not have direct answers to them that will make these questions go away. Thank you for watching Power Lines. For more analysis and insight, subscribe to our YouTube channel down below, like this video, and you can watch more of us right over here.